Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show, it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of the Endgame. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, I like that it seems like the theme of every episode is going to be a tale that she tells, and every tale is going to be tied into, like, whatever, it's going to be a antidote for sometimes a lot more literal in certain cases, but it's all going to be tied to whatever it is, whatever mission she's trying to get across. It is interesting, like, I wasn't expecting this bank situation to be the ongoing thing, but it's like, right, kind of have everyone's focus on that while everything else is trickling out. It's kind of like the whole purpose of it all. So, but obviously we get the story about her marriage to Sergei. That the fact of the matter is that she loved his mom, because she was like the surrogate mother for him, because she didn't know her own mom because her mom died sometime when she was young, but like she really got to know Sergei's mom. And it turns out that, I guess at the very least, Sergei and his family were in the criminal enterprise, so I guess she kind of married into the family. Now, whether she was kind of, she probably dabbled in the criminal world just because it's like, right, she had to survive on her own for such a long time. But I'm curious, like, when it was all said and done, there was a bomb that went off at the wedding. Now, what I'm curious about, though, is, did they rebuild the organization? Because I think most of the organization potentially died in that explosion because everyone was at the wedding. So, like, most of the family's dead, so that means the entire organization is dead. I wonder, did they build it up? So, like, the organization she's leading now, is it kind of like, oh, this organization is like a phoenix rising from the ashes of the previous one? Or is it just kind of a separate thing all in its own entirety? It might just be like her symbolizing it, that it is a spiritual successor to Sergei's family's organization. Either way, his mom pointed out that, yes, men are the face of the operation, but women, they're the true queens, they're the true masterminds behind everything, and welcomed Elena into the family open arms. So, with everything being what it is, I immediately was like, well, the fact is we know Sergei is locked up, so... And the fact is, Valerie still believes him to be dead, so it means, like, once again, the government is some pretty powerful people at the very least are hiding him in a prison, and they're trying to, like, keep him from her. So either they're trying to, like, people trying to, like, bargain with her, like, to get her to go their way with things, like, whether it's a form of negotiations with whoever captured Sergei. I'm also curious, is this, like... Because it's like, no, because she's keeping up the pretense that he's dead, even though, like, she knows he's not. So I'm wondering, I think this is all about revenge. I think the people were, like, I kind of thought for a while, like, this would be about that. Like, I thought it was about Sergei, but it partially is, but it's also about his family, his mom, because his mom wasn't just important to him, his mom was important to Elena, too, and it's like, she wants revenge. So I'm assuming it was a government op or something like that, maybe like a CIA thing or whatever. I think all of this is for the purposes of unraveling who was responsible. Either she doesn't know, or everything is her checking off the list until she works her way up to the people responsible for killing her family. So, because once again, like, we also know there was a target on her back ever since she was a little girl. So it's like, because her dad got killed, and also, well, the people sent to assassinate her, that father-daughter team, like, went after her too, so there's something there. Like, it seems almost like someone's going out of their way trying to wipe out that bloodline type of thing, whether that's a personal grudge or whether it's just like a business thing of like, yeah, we sanctioned this because, like, her dad was some bad person. I don't know. There's still a lot of gaps in that. I'm sure we'll learn more about it as the season progresses, but the real heart of this story ends up being that Joan's son ends up getting kidnapped. And the moment he's kidnapped and kind of taken hostage, you're like, okay, so she made it pretty clear last episode. She already got rid of the last guy last episode. Now she's going to get rid of Joan, because she looked at the guy that Valerie answers to and was like, you worried about you going next? It's like, no, you're not, but you are. Because she's trying to be a vigilante, trying to expose the evil and corruption that is like, right, Valerie, you are an FBI agent that spent so long with your eyes covered. Now the veil around your eyes are finally being lifted. You're seeing there's all this corruption around you that you've never been able to see. You are so, because I think that's why she figures, like, we are kindred spirits, because we both got that street fighter in us, and we both seek justice. That's why you became an FBI agent, which we learn even more about why Valerie became one. We'll get to that in a second, but they might be on opposite sides of the spectrum in Valerie's eyes, but in Elena's eyes, they're kind of like two sides of the same coin, but maybe also it is a thing of, well, even if we are on opposite sides of the spectrum, we still are the same through and through because we both want justice, and that's what this has to all be about exposing the hypocrisy, the corruption that led to what happened to our family, because I think everyone played their role. Like I said, I think she's chopping off the heads until she gets to the final head. Is like, once again, you cut off the head of a hydra, like one grows in its place. She's trying to find the main head type of thing. Like she's trying to cut off all the heads at once. So ultimately, they were able to find Joan's son, but then it leads to a whole situation where it's like, cool, we need to be able to get the vest off him and stuff. We need to be able to unlock what's on his chest. And it's like, right, what's the password? What has your mom done for you? It's like, okay, she covered up. The fact is I did coke and I got busted. She made it go away. But it turns out the password in actuality was Isaac Bigsby, because it turns out that's the name of the man who murdered her mom. Also, because they're fairly close to they're actually not fairly close. They are in the graveyard in which her mom is buried. So it's like, that is kind of messed up. And even later on, it's like, yeah, she put that trunk in my car after me and you were checking out the body. Even Anthony's like, man, that's jacked up. We were visiting your mom's grave, and she had the audacity to have something put in there like that. That's kind of jacked up. But, I guess Elena's kind of got that a flair for the dramatic, But yeah, luckily they were, circling back, they were able to get the vest off of Joan's son. And I was almost wondering, I'm like, could it be a fluke? Was it going to be a fake out? It's like, no, it was a straight up bomb. And to the point there was shrapnel everywhere. Even Anthony being like, we would have all ended up getting killed if it wasn't for that. But it's like, yeah, this woman knows everything there is to know about Elena. Elena knows everything there is to know about Valerie, to the point of knowing the man that she's trying to find, the man who killed her father. And it's like, right, the man, he ended up slipping away and disappearing. Valerie did everything she could to find him, both as a teenager and as a police officer, well, as a FBI agent. But when she finally found him, he's buried in Baton Rouge. So part of me is like, okay, one of two things. One, it was a big cover-up, because apparently, her dad busted him for something, and he managed to get off, and he came back for revenge. I don't think it was just revenge. I think it was a targeted hit against her dad for what, he might have stumbled across some corruption. It might be a thing of some people he was working with were on the take. They decided, we got to remove him from the equation. Said people have slowly over the years risen through the ranks. It might be that type of thing of that's what she's trying to expose, what she's trying to go after. And by that I mean Elena, but she might be helping Valerie not only open her eyes, but find out the truth behind him. Because she's implying there was some shady stuff going on with Isaac. Because she's like, do you ever wonder why you couldn't find him? Maybe you weren't looking hard enough. It's like, he's probably not, either he is actually dead because whoever's working with him is trying to tie up all loose ends, or we're going to find out that Elena's going to be like, no, I killed him for you. No, I did that because I wanted you to feel indebted to me. I doubt that, because she wouldn't want Valerie to get the revenge herself, because it's like, right, I wouldn't want anyone to take my revenge away from me, so I wouldn't do that to you. But it's but my other thought is someone faked his death and he's still out there alive, and Elena knows exactly where he is, and she's trying to slowly wean Valerie into all this, because she's like, if I throw it all at you at once, you're not going to believe me. You're going to think it's such BS. But it's like, right, because such a large scale conspiracy, her being who she is, she won't believe it. But if I unravel everything little by little, reveal all these dark secrets, you're going to start trusting me little by little. So granted, she does also kind of have Valerie in a complicated situation, because there's a photo, because Elena knows to have insurances, showing that it's not just her and Sergei together, but Owen met with them too. And it's like, what was that about? I'm assuming much like Owen's potentially doing this all for Valerie's sake, or there's something that is being held over him that he's not talking to Valerie about. There's something there. Why else would he cooperate? Why will he deny? Not why he won't tell her anything. Why he won't help her prove his innocence, considering he knows. But it's I wonder, was that after he was already, because it was 2 years ago, apparently, because it's right, Sergei was still alive, but it's once again, we know he's alive because he's in the same prison as Owen. I'm sure they made sure to make sure that they never cross paths, because if Valerie ever found out Sergei was alive, it'd probably like be like, wait, what? How is he? Then that becomes like the whole thing of like, right, don't want to skip to the end of the chapter. You don't want to skip a few stories ahead, right? So Elena's going to let her find out when the time is appropriate, when it's like she's built up enough rapport and trust with her to lead to this. But yeah, I was waiting to see what this whole situation with Joan was going to be. At first, I was wondering if Joan was the one directly responsible for killing Sergei's mom, but I was like, no. It turns out she's just up to some other shady stuff. Apparently, she's been working with the cartel they've been hunting down. It's like she's been taking like payments from them by giving them heads up about like, oh, when people are going to bust them and stuff. So, quite a few. Once again, as Valerie says it, it's like, right, Elena has contingencies, applying contingencies. She even had a suit prepared knowing well that they weren't going to give her clothes, but she knew, like, right, I'm going to have them here set up anyway. I even love that her outfit in the end includes the jewel that Sergei's mom gave her that is supposed to always kind of, like, let it be kind of a sign of protection. It's always kind of been passed down in their family, so I thought that was beautiful. But yeah, Joan got busted, which I love immediately. She's like, hey, you don't want to do this. And like the dude's like, why not? She's like, the fact of the matter is a bad guy's got 7 banks held hostage. On top of that, you're telling me like, and the fact is that the word gets out that a vigilante is running things. It's not going to look good for you. So I'm going to bow out like after a couple weeks and say it was because of family reasons. But it's like, no, you're not getting away. I was curious whether or not he was going to just accept that or not. But he's like, no, you're not going to get away with your corruption. So she gets arrested. So she was just kind of smug even to the end, almost being like, all right, you're making a mistake. This is going to blow back on you. But yeah, at the end of the day, Elena's getting everything she wants. Little by little, chess move after chess move. So another interesting aspect to this was that whole situation with Lawton, the bank dude, and I was like curious where that was going to go. I was almost about to say, like, could he be faking it and like he's actually working? I was like, I don't think he is. And a way the lady who's running that bank is kind of like worried for him. I was like, did they do something to him? Like, well, he passed out the candy. Who knows if anyone else ate it? But I was like, was his laced or something? I'm like, how did that? Oh, she put a patch on him to make him sick. In the moment, like, they got what they needed. Oh, it's actually really smart operation. They got the flash drive out at the same time. And I love that Patrick's trying to talk to her, and the lady running it, she's like, you have nothing I want, Patrick. But she used that opportunity to try and record her voice so they can check it through some systems. But the whole conversation that even Valerie brought up when she was talking to that EMT was, why are you doing this? Like, what did she do? And it's like, oh, like, did she take a crash, basically make everyone take a crash course on how to irritate people? Because it's just like, right, you're just as infuriating as she is, but she believes this is, once again, I think she's able to get so many people rallied behind her because everyone, I think, has suffered some injustices. And now it's like, I think that's why all the people who work for her are people who were screwed over by a corrupt government. Now, whether it was this one, like whether the like corruption within the U.S. government played some role in their respective situations, or whether it's just a situation of they've come from places with corrupt governments, I don't know. I'm curious to see how that plays out, but I think that's the only motivation why so many people are with her, because she's planning on rooting out all the evil that is kind of all this corruption that she's trying to lay it all bare. So I think that's why she's amounted so much loyalty from so many people because of that. It was also really sweet to know, like, the tattoo thing isn't just like Sergei and her thing, which it is, but it's meant to be a reminder, like the dove is meant to be a reminder of his mom, you know? And it will always kind of bind them together as family, that they will always have a reminder of her. It will remind them of each other, but also remind them of her. So I just thought that was kind of a beautiful, like, sentimental thing, though. But, it is, circling back to the Patrick thing really quickly, I think it's fascinating that he's trying to play that card with Valerie. He's like, hey, I'm your friend. I always have been. Basically, it's like, cool, whatever information you get, like, he's trying to go through Anthony to be like, yo, whatever information's going down at Fort Lawton, like, let me know. We got to keep the information flowing. And he's like, oh, you're over here, like, rather than doing something I want you to do, like, try and find out who's the lady leading this operation in the bank, you're over here talking to your pal. It's like, he's coming off as such a dick. Once again, I feel so bad for the actor because he had this, issues, but even as Aaron from 12 Monkeys, he was kind of a dick, especially how everything ended up playing out, but still. He believed he was kind of doing the right thing, so who knows? He might end up being the wrestler of the show. Like, wrestler, when, like, him and Liz in the beginning, he was such a kind of, like, he's the Boy Scout, he always has been, but man, he was such an annoying prick to Liz at the beginning, but, like, obviously he's softened up a lot over the course of the series, so I don't know if Patrick's going to continue to be a dick forever, or whether it's like, nah, give him enough time, he'll finally, like, wear you down. Because he does seem like someone who is an opportunist. Because Valerie's like, cool, oh, you're talking about you're my friend and stuff like that. Funny how you kind of up and disappeared. Like, the fact is, the way he treated her last episode, being like, yeah, it might be better if you work from the office. So it's like, ever since the cloud above her with the whole Owen thing, once again, she turned in her own husband, she tried to do the right thing, and everyone scattered. It seems like Anthony's the only one. Like, either he came to her, like, as a partner and friend, like, they started working together after Owen, or maybe he is someone from before. I don't know. I like it better if he was someone before, because I want her to at least have someone who knows the circumstances, who still has her back regardless. I think Patrick might put Anthony in a complicated situation where he has to basically choose between, like, oh, like, all the stuff Valerie's up to and Patrick. Like, he's going to probably put him in a tough spot. Didn't seem like Anthony broke this episode. He still kept doing his thing with Valerie on the side, not letting anyone know what was what, but even the fact is, he's like, hey, we should go back to Fort Lawton and tell them everything. She's like, oh, so we can turn it in together. It's like, no, you're not trying to do this because it's the right thing to do. You're trying to play some political game here. You're trying to make some moves because you yourself have failed twice now and you got egg on your face. Especially this has turned into more and more of a media circus because it's not going to look good when, like, seven bakes have been held simultaneously. And on top of that, it's going on multiple days. It's like, yeah, this is a complicated standoff, and it's going to make people go like, oh, what is the FBI doing? So, because Valerie's, in fact, the only one who's really figured out anything. So she's coming out looking golden. He's the one that's got poop smeared on his face because of all this. So, and I love him being like, wow, Val, you're so petty of you, Val. I expected better of you. I was like, shut up, you condescending prick. You're mad because she kind of called you out. Once again, maybe he'll start off like a dick, but then he'll worm his way on like being a better person. We'll see. Like I said, he's just screaming opportunist. Not unless he's someone that Valerie ends up removing from the board because Elena helps with that. Not unless he has something to do with this whole Owen thing as well, or just... Valerie did try to talk to Owen, but he wasn't willing to listen to her, which he obviously hates that he has to, like, lie to her and see her struggling and the cogs in her head trying to figure out, like, trying to make sense of it all. She knows there's something else here because she's not going to give up on Owen because Owen was there in her darkest place. When she was a teenager, it's like, you stopped me from going out there trying to find the guy that I might not have been able to find. I had a box cutter in my hand and you took it out of my hand and you told me you'll be there for me. And she's like, I'm just trying to do the same thing here. And he gives her a 4-leaf clover and says, good luck, which part of me wonders, like, could that have been a subtle code, or was that him? Like, the fact that he just happened to have it makes me go, there's something there. Which, Sergei's like, oh, did you give her some code or something? He's like, no. I'm just doing what I gotta do. Don't worry about me, Sergei. And I love that he told that joke, and I was like, okay, when he started telling the joke, I'm like, where is this going? Legitimately, I laughed, because I was like, oh, that's a pretty good joke. And he's like, fine, I know someone who will listen to it and like it. And he basically uses Morse code to text it to Elena, because, like, they tried searching Valerie's card top to bottom, stripped it apart, couldn't find out how Elena's getting all this information out there and how she's receiving it. Turns out there's like a bug, like some device or something they've either hacked into or something they planted in there. Basically, the blinking light that obviously, like, when she was listening to the joke, when he was Morse coding it to her, she laughs. So that might be some keen clue of, like, what's she laughing about? Because I'm sure that she's constantly under surveillance. It's all being recorded. Valerie's like, wait, she's looking in this direction. What is she like? You know, so they'll probably think, like, oh, she's crazy and being maniacal. But Valerie knows her better than anyone. As she said, there's always layers upon layers when it comes to something that Elena's doing. So it's definitely going to be really interesting to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.